I was digging in the woods late at night when I heard a shout. Suddenly, people surrounded me with flashlights pointed at my face. But let me start from the beginning. When I married my second wife, Kate, I moved into her house in San Francisco. It was a large property with plenty of land around it. The house next door looked almost identical to ours and belonged to Kate's sister, Brittany. The two sisters couldn't have been more different. Brittany was tall, slim, and strong. She loved controlling everyone around her, especially Kate. She wasn't happy when I married Kate and took her away from her influence. Kate was shorter and heavier, weighing about 12 kilos more than she wanted to. She wasn't very confident and usually did what others expected of her. Kate had been away for 3 weeks now, and Brittany had been watching me closely. One afternoon, she sat in my living room drinking tea when the phone rang. A woman's voice said she was Kate, but something felt wrong. I told her she had the wrong number and hung up. Brittany noticed my reaction and asked who had called. I said it was a wrong number. Then she mentioned she thought she'd seen Kate in town yesterday, which seemed impossible since Kate was supposed to be in New York visiting friends. The truth was, I didn't know exactly where Kate had gone. Brittany then brought up my first wife, Emily, who had died in a boating accident. She fell out of the boat and drowned because she couldn't swim. I was the only witness to the accident. Brittany asked if Emily had left me any money. I told her it was none of her business. Though Emily had indeed left me $60,000 in life insurance and a sailing boat. After Brittany left, I walked through the woods behind the house to a peaceful spot with a stream where I'd been spending a lot of time lately. A few days later, while shopping in town, I saw a small, heavy-set woman in a black dress and grey hat walking away from me. It was the third time I'd seen her in 10 days. I ran after her, but when I turned the corner, she'd vanished. Brittany's car pulled up beside me, and she asked why I was running. I made up an excuse about exercising. The next morning, Brittany was in my dining room when I returned from my walk. She'd been looking through Kate's clothes and said nothing seemed to be missing. She found it strange that Kate would leave for New York without taking any luggage. That evening, I looked at Kate's wardrobe and wondered what to do with all her clothes. The following morning, Brittany brought me the mail. There was a letter addressed to me in familiar handwriting. Inside, it said Kate missed me and would return home soon. When Brittany asked if it was from Kate, I lied and said it was from my aunt in California. That night, I received a phone call from someone claiming to be Kate. The voice sounded wrong, and I told her she wasn't Kate. The caller insisted she was uncomfortable where she was and had left. I couldn't sleep. I got dressed, went to the kitchen for a drink, and then headed to the woods with a spade. I walked to the tallest tree in the clearing, counted 15 paces and started digging. I barely worked for 10 minutes when I heard a loud shout and found myself surrounded by people with flashlights. Brittany stepped forward with several people I recognized as her employees, including her lawyer. She accused me of returning to check if Kate was really dead, assuming I'd buried her there. I claimed I was searching for old Egyptian knives that brought good luck when found in moonlight. Brittany ignored my excuse and pointed out private detectives she'd hired to watch me. One woman had dressed like Kate, another had copied Kate's voice on the phone. They'd been playing tricks to make me confess to murder. The detectives began digging where I'd started. They worked for 20 minutes, going 2 meters deep, but found nothing except an old Egyptian knife. I smiled at Brittany and asked what made her think I'd buried Kate. I walked back to my house, leaving them all standing in the woods. I'd known from the start that Brittany was behind the fake Kate appearances. She believed I'd killed her sister and wanted to frighten me into confessing. But I'd been playing my own game, pretending to be scared and leading her to believe I'd buried Kate's body. Now I was in a strong position. She'd called me a murderer in front of witnesses, and I could take her to court. But she wouldn't want that embarrassment. She'd rather pay everyone to stay quiet, and I'd support her story if she gave me a substantial amount of money. By the end of the week, my phone rang. It was Kate, saying she was coming home. She asked if anyone had missed her, and if I'd told Brittany where she'd been. I said Brittany thought she was visiting friends in New York. Kate laughed, explaining she couldn't tell her sister the truth because she'd be ashamed. She'd been at a health camp trying to lose weight and was unsure she could do it. But she had succeeded, losing all 12 kilos. Her figure was now as good as my first wife Emily's, she said proudly. I congratulated her, and she asked if we could afford new clothes since nothing would fit her anymore. I smiled and said we could, thanks to some help from Brittany. Kate didn't need to know the details. All that mattered was that she was coming home and our future was secure.